So now let's take that into triangle pose, extended side angle pose, warrior one, warrior two, extended chest pose. Let's see how that all works out. Now, for those of you that are more advanced practitioners, watch out. One can overdo the outward rotation of the top of the thigh. And that will show up, just as a warning, that will show up with the knee turning almost too far out to your right or to your left. And your weight will not be on, right? It won't be on the inner edge of the foot. You'll start to distort, okay? So keep that in mind if you're very open or have been practicing a long period of time. Take your wide stance, grounding the feet evenly. Bring your palms to the back of the pelvis and draw the buttocks flesh down. Inhale, lift up through your side ribs, reach the inner elbows back. So allow just the position of your body to create a stretch. So the poses themselves, as a basic rule, will present a stretch for you. So identify that. So for me, this morning, that stretch is identified in the front arm, in the bicep region. A little bit of a stretch on my outer peroneals, on the outer ankle. So it just reminds me I need to ground the inner heels a little bit more. Now lift up through your side ribs, reach out through your arms. Again, just as a reminder for those of you that are working on releasing your shoulders, you're always going to take your arms up first and then out, all right? Because that's what we've been working on. Turn your left foot in, spin your right leg out 90 degrees. Bring your right hand down so that you're making the letter C with your hand so that the thumb is on that back hip crease. Draw the right thigh back. Extend the right ribs up and out. So if you take your tailbone slightly forward, which is corresponding to grounding the back body into the floor, you should find some extension and some quieting of the muscles on the back body. Let your right hand drape to the shin. Reach through the heels, lengthen out through the side ribs, and then turn your abdomen towards the ceiling. Plant the big toe mound of your right foot. Reach through the left heel, the left arm, and inhale and come up. Now don't move. Just extend your arms out and bend your right leg. Bring your awareness to this hip crease. All right, can you feel it? Take your left hand to your left hip and your right arm up. Can you reach up more out of this hip crease? And then straighten your right leg, turn your feet to parallel, lower the arm down. So if you've ever attempted to meditate, you notice that the mind is always swirling around and presenting a whole lot of things to you. So the point of meditation is to observe the thought process, but not go out and follow that thought. You just go, oh, okay, this is what's being presented. So as we practice this morning, we can see how often our focus moves away from this hip crease. Inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale, turn the arms out, lower to shoulder height. Spin both feet to the left, heel to arch alignment. Now bring your left hand, that C, into the crease of the top of the thigh. Find the back hip crease with your thumb. Exhale. Turn that left thigh to the left if you need. As you take your left thigh back, reach out through the left ribs. Ground through the feet, lengthen the side ribs away from the side hips. How much clarity do you have in that hip crease? Plant the feet, release your left arm down. Draw the left thigh back in the hip socket, turn your abdomen up, look up. Plant the big toe mound of your left foot. Reach to the right heel, right arm. Inhale and come up. Now, don't move your feet, but keep your left hand in that hip crease and bend the left leg. Press down into your left thigh. Can you lift up out of that left hip more? And then straighten the leg, turn your feet to parallel. Right. Tadasana. Cross your forearms, inhale. Lengthen up and out of the shoulder region. Take your inner shoulder blades down. Straighten the arms up. Exhale, release. So now extended side angle, we'll use this outer hip crease. So in triangle pose, it has a straight leg principle, which helps to release the back of the pelvis down. There is a little bit of that going on. Your outer right hip crease is moving directionally towards this heel. So this is where we get congested, right? And then the hand can either come to the floor or to a block. As the tailbone comes forward, the right thigh can reach out more. And then you end up being able to feel the space up and out through the chest and out through that thigh. If you're using blocks, bring your blocks to the back quadrant of your mat and place your feet in your wide stance with the blocks directly behind your calf. That's generally going to give you the best position. Okay. Now bring your palms to the back of the pelvis. Again, observe. What is this stance bringing you in terms of awareness and sensation? So what's interesting is now I feel more of my thighs lifting and I feel a little bit more movement of the abdomen back, a hollowness. And that encourages me to then lift the back ribs up. So I'm just explaining what's going on sensation-wise in my body and what I do with it. It may be entirely different for you. It doesn't have to be the same thing. Right? Bring your arms to shoulder height. Turn your feet to the right. Outwardly rotate the right leg. Exhale. Take your right hand to that hip crease again and remove it when it starts to get congested in there, all right? Bend your right leg into a square. Take the outer right hip crease towards the left heel and bring your hand to the block or your forearm to your thigh. So your left arm is still in triangle pose. So take the tailbone forward, the right thigh out. Turn your abdomen towards the ceiling. Spin your left palm toward your head. Take the thumb back, inner shoulder blade down, stretch the arm out. Lengthen all along that left side, from the reach of your fingertips to the grounding of your heel. Now, if you feel like you just don't have that space in the top of the thigh, bring your block up higher. Or if you're already high on your block, bring your forearm to your thigh. Now, if you feel like you still have plenty of space, attempt to go lower in your block if you're down on the block. Tailbone forward, right thigh out, outer right hip crease moves back towards the heel and turn. And then inhale, come back up, turn your feet to parallel. Palms to the back of the pelvis. Lengthen the arms out at shoulder height. Turn your feet to the left. Outwardly rotate the left leg. Take your left hand, thumb, in the back hip crease, put the hand right here across the front of the thigh. So you're bringing awareness into that area. And as you exhale, draw the outer left hip crease towards the right heel and bring either your forearm to the thigh or a hand to the block. Make sure that left knee is over the heel of the foot. So sometimes we don't step wide enough and we need a little bit more. Now, ground through the right heel, sternum towards the chin. Tailbone forward, reach out through that left thigh more, and then turn your right palm towards your head, thumb back, extend alongside your ear. Turn the abdomen up as you sweep the left leg back. If you don't feel like you have space in this area here at the top of the thigh, turn the block up or take your forearm to your thigh and turn more, reach more. Ground through the left heel, Back through the right heel, tailbone forward, left thigh out. Inhale and sweep yourself back up to your starting stance. Side step back or jump to Tadasana. Now, palms to the back of the pelvis. All right. We're taking a little bit of a mini Utkatasana. So as you bend your knees forward, draw these hip creases back, like you have an invisible seat belt here. So as I keep the buttock flesh going towards the floor behind me, my abdomen draws in and up, right? So either keep this broadening of the collarbones, especially tight shoulder people, lift the inner elbows up and back, and if you're going further, take your arms forward and up. So deeper with the reach of your arms, ground the inner heels, find those hip creases, and then inhale and come up. So Warrior One has a lot of that action going on. Blocks can come off of your mat. Take now your right foot forward, your left foot back. Take your thumbs to the hip creases of both sides, just so you know, all right, legs, pelvis. Pelvis is the base of that trunk. Make sure the left foot is at a 45. You don't want your triangle pose foot. You want a sense of the inner groins rolling back. So turn both thighs to the right. Take one hand to your belly, one hand to the back of the pelvis. As you outwardly rotate both legs now, can you get the back of the pelvis down more? You may or may not, depending on how tight the front left hip is. Now, keep lifting the abdomen up. Bend your right leg into a square and manually lift both hands up so you feel this right thigh descend down as the pelvis draws up. If you're jamming in your lower back, you just tilt forward slightly and use more action in that left heel. Like Utkatasana, you can stay here with your hands on the back of the pelvis or sweep your arms forward, out, and up. And once the arms are up, use that to extend, telescope your trunk upwards. Reach the right thigh out as you take your tailbone under. Good, breathe. Yeah, maybe step that right foot out a little further. Be courageous. It is a warrior pose after all. Inhale, straighten your right leg, lower the arms. And then bring yourself with the left foot forward and the right foot back. Turning both thighs to the left. Find those hip creases. Just remind yourself they're here. Right? Maybe you're not focused here anymore. Maybe you're focused on your breathing. Maybe you're focused on your outer ankle. Right? Make sure that right foot's in a 45. And as you outwardly rotate both legs, start to find a lift in the front abdomen and a drop in the back of the pelvis. As you inhale, lift both. All right, so you're lifting from a different place here. So the abdomen, for me, it's the right hand is on the abdomen because it's easier to access on this side. And my back of my left hand's on the back of the pelvis. And I'm lifting up both sides as I bend the left leg into a square. Tailbone draws under. So as I drop the left hand down, dropping the back of the pelvis down, I lift the abdomen in and up. I start to feel too much sensation in here. That's when I know I'm too far. I need to extend forward a little bit more. All right, so now I have the thigh, the back, the abdomen. This left hip crease drops down. If you're going further from this position, take your arms up. Find your Utkatasana. Maybe your left foot creeps out a little bit more. Ground the left heel, drop the left thigh, lift your abdomen up. Back ribs up. Keep breathing. Feel that hip crease. So the left one's descending, the right one is stretching. Inhale, straighten the left leg, lower your arms, and find yourself back in Tadasana. And now starting stance for Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana 2. Now in this particular pose, although it starts off like extended side angle, we want to be mindful not to drop the hip quite so much. right? Because in extended side angle, the legs start to have this kind of movement. But in Warrior Two, the trunk floats up directly from the outer hips. So we can get really jammed up in this area. So if you start to feel too much closure in this back hip crease, you inwardly rotate the leg, but continue to turn the ribs away from the front leg, right? And that way my right thigh can leave, extend, move out of this pelvis while this backside isn't held hostage, right? And the arms are here. So take your wide stance, if you're not there already. Ground down through the heels, charge up the thighs. Take that reminder from before, so the abdomen draws in and up as the back of the pelvis draws down. Extend your arms into your parallel stance. Turn the feet to the right. And now bring your left hand into that C. Take the right arm up. We want to lift up out of the right hip, bend your right leg into a square. Right, so when you feel jammed up in here, start to inwardly rotate the leg. Can you go deeper once you inwardly rotate your leg? Maybe. Extend the arms out, shoulder height. Keep turning the ribs to the left as you look out over your right hand. The side ribs lift, the shoulder blades descend. Inhale, straighten your right leg, turn your feet to parallel. Lower the hands down to the hip creases. Reach the inner elbows back. Right foot turns in, spin your left leg out 90 degrees. Sometimes you have to shorten your stance a little bit, so Clara, you look a little wide, but we'll see. If your feet slide on the mat, I'm having a slippery moment with this mat this morning, right? So I have this outer hip crease, front hip crease, abdomen in, pelvis down. Take your left arm up. As you exhale, reach through the left arm, dropping the left thigh down. When you feel congested in this back side, you may or may not, inwardly rotate the right leg, but keep the ribs turning to the right, and then release your arms to parallel. So as you inwardly rotate the right thigh, it should give you more release out. The abdomen draws in and up, the tailbone slightly forward. Now gaze over that left hand. Inhale and come back, feet parallel. Find your way back to Tadasana, either with a hop or a side step. Good. Next is extended chest pose. This morning we want to focus on more of the forward bending aspect. So I would say it's going to be most productive by keeping the hands in this outer hip crease region. Right? So I'm going to take a slight up and back movement from the sternum lifting towards the chin and the elbows reaching back. But really what I want to do, because I have my thumbs right here in the line at the top of the sacrum, and my finger, the ring or the middle finger right here in the hip crease, because I want to turn. I'm lifting my thumbs as I take the fingers back to articulate more space. All right? And then I'm going to take my hands to the right thigh and scoop the abdomen in and up as I press into this thigh, not near the knee, not so much that your knee locks out. And that should give you a better sense of clarity in this front hip. So right now, take your right foot forward, your left foot back. Turn both thighs to the right until your front hip points are parallel with the end of the mat, and then outwardly rotate both legs. Bring your palms to the back of the pelvis. Lift the sternum up as you reach back through the left heel. Take a slightly gentle upward arc with your trunk. And then inhale, as you bring your shoulders back over your hips, move the thumbs to the back of the buttocks lash at the line of your sacrum, and then bring the ring or the middle finger into the hip crease. Plant your feet, lift your abdomen in and up. So you want your hands, your fingers on the front hip creases, right here on the front. And this will start to teach us more space. Now, Rotate the pelvis by lifting your thumbs up and your fingers back in that hip crease. And then once you get to a nice stretch in the hamstring, bring your right hand or both hands to the front of the right thigh. Extend back through the left heel. Inhale, lift up through the front chest. Keep your upper arms moving back. So go down any amount until the hamstring is at its end range. Not behind the knee, but just in this meat of the hamstring. And then inhale and come up. Step forward with your left foot, back with your right. And now turn both thighs to the left. Outwardly rotate your right leg so you're stable here in your stance and long in the pelvis. All right, bring your hands to the back of the pelvis, keep them drawing down, elbows back, sternum lifts up. Nice deep breath in. So extend from this front hip crease as you reach the right thigh back, grounding through the right heel. Anchoring out through the big toe mound of your left foot. Inhale, come back up, shoulders over hips. Transfer your hands now. So the thumbs are in the buttocks flesh, your ring or middle finger is in that hip crease, and then lift the back of the pelvis with your thumbs as you rotate forward. And then right about here, because it's a nice angle, I'm taking my hands to the top of the left thigh and continuing to project upwards through the front body as the thigh draws back. And then inhale and come up. Step forward, Tadasana, take a breath here. Tune in. See what sensations you find. For me, it's all about my feet. Maybe I overworked my feet, I don't know. So it's always good to check in. So it can be just like meditation, your thoughts. It's like, all right, I need to go pick up this at the store. Okay, I need to make that appointment. Okay, I need to plan this class. So that rattling on is just like, all right, I feel sensations in my feet. I feel this, I feel this. Now take your wide stance. We're going to take wide leg forward bend, but use the hands on the legs all the way down, depending on how far down you get. So my fingers are right here in the hip creases. And if you want a cleaner identification of those hip creases, just bend your knees, because that fold is your hip crease, right? And then straighten the legs, ground the heels, and extend forward from there. So the fingers are encouraging you to stay firm in the top of the thigh, reach back, and everything else reaches forward. Slide your hands down to your shins. So as the shins press into the hands, you get more action in your front thighs. As you press your hands into your shins, you get more length out through the front body. Extend down any amount. If you hit your ankles, rather than taking your hands to the floor, broaden the collarbones, reach the elbows, and pull up on the ankles to bring yourself down more. Keep length in the front body. It's more important to have a nice movement of the sternum out than it is to have your hands down on your ankles. One more breath here. Plant the 4 points of the feet to enroll the legs and walk your hands up the thighs and come back up to stand. Good. And then let's bring ourselves back to Tadasana. We're going to come down into downward dog. However, we want to have our props all around. So for those of you that are not doing shoulder balance, you can keep your blankets folded like this because you will be doing Viparita Karani with 2 blankets. For those of you that are doing shoulder balance, right, open up your blankets, have them nearby so that you can quickly transition into shoulder balance. So we'll be doing our inversion first, and then we'll come back to our focus poses. Now, some of you might need a chair or a couch, so you can reposition yourself after you get down. And then the focus poses will need a belt. So you can have all of that nearby, And this way you have a more seamless practice if you kind of plan ahead a little bit. Now I'm not standing on my blankets, but I'm as close to them as possible. You can even see that there's the edge of the mat. Have your feet wider than your hips. Bring your fingers right to the hip creases. As you exhale, ground through the feet. Inhale, lift up through your chest. Reach your inner elbows back. Now, rotate. See if you can make it the cleanest extension all morning. Even taking your fingers directly into that hip crease. Now, right about here, I start to close into it. So I'm going to lift my abdomen up and project the ribs out a little further. Now, if you've tapped out your hamstrings, you bend your legs. All right, so for me, my fingertips are cupping on the floor. For you, you might have your thumbs now in the outer hip creases with your legs bent. All right, so bring your palms to the mat. If you have to, bend the legs to get there, and then begin to walk out. If your legs are bent, the heels lift immediately. If your legs are straight, see if you can keep the heels down and the thighs drawing back so you get more grounding in those legs. Find your downward dog. Index finger mount, thumb mount down, ball mounds of the feet evenly planted. Press into the floor and feel the lift of the inner groins, lift of the inner arms. Take the front of the leg towards the back of the leg as you extend your arms again. If you want to stay for 2 or 3 more breaths, by all means do so. If it's time to come down into child's pose.